Okay. Oh. Jerry was howling for his people. think I'm gonna go get a Pop-Tart. Okay. Someone came by and then immediately left. Alright, 10 minutes have passed. Am I being called? Hold on. Sorry about that. Is that Lynette with a little kitty?
Meow. It's you. 1 second. Now activating chat mode. You made me jump there. I thought they'd finally caught me.
Made you jump? Barely. I didn't notice. Is someone out to kidnap you?
Objectively speaking, the trouble was entirely of my own making. Half an hour ago, I was at Hotel de Boer for a drinks reception. It was to celebrate the successful opening of a show, but it was draining my energy. So, I waited for the right moment, then snuck away so I could switch to standby mode.
I see. So they sent someone to find you and bring you back? But why?
Probably because I'm playing the lead role in the show.
The lead role?
Is that so surprising? I'm always getting invitations to do solo performances. I just usually get Linny to write back and turn them down. But then came the Fontanalia Film Festival. We took all the kids from the House of the Hearth out to see a film, and after it finished, they all started clamoring for me to try out acting for some reason. Even Linny was chanting along with them.
1 second, I forgot to change my filter. There we go.
Anyway, it just so happened that a director called Mary who had sent me an invitation right around then. I'll spare you the details, but basically, I ended up accepting it.
So this is the dramatic debut of the magician's puppet, huh?
Yep, you nailed it. I'm playing the role of a puppet. In fact, the show's called The Lost Puppet, and it's a masked mime show. So, I don't have to do any facial expressions or say any lines. Literally just a series of physical movements. The director says it's a very avant-garde art form.
That does sound pretty avant-garde. But can people understand the plot?
Art is not comprehended by the mind, but felt in the heart. At least, that's what the director says. Anyway, if nothing else, the opening performance seemed to go down well. At the drinks reception, everyone was crowding around me, saying, "Triumphant character portrayal, faithful adaptation of the original work, unequivocally, quintessentially avant-garde," and stuff like that. But being the center of attention is draining. So the moment they left me to go harass the director instead, I was out of there.
For once, you weren't able to use Linny as a human shield.
The other thing is, some weird things happened while I was on the stage. Oh, sorry, Bonnie. I didn't mean to leave you out of the conversation. My bad.
I take it Bonnie's your pet cat?
No, we just met. We bumped into each other right after I slipped away.
And you've already named her?
Well, it'd be kind of difficult for us to communicate otherwise. Besides, I think she's taken a liking to the name. Haven't you, Bonnie? Yeah, that's right. Good kitty. We'll go find your owner soon, I promise.
Owner? Not a stray cat, then.
Nope. She's wearing a collar, and for the most part, she's pretty well groomed. If she is a stray, she hasn't been for long. Her stomach's been growling a lot. I guess she must have been missing for a few days now. As much as I'd love to hang out with her for a while longer, Her owner's probably worried sick about her. Assuming she has an owner, that is. But the reception... I should probably show my face there again at some point. Even if it's just to make excuses and leave again. Decision time.
Is this a tough decision for you?
Well, I just find it exhausting. Thinking through all the different ramifications of different choices and so on. That's more Lenny's area than mine. So, unless it's something really important, I usually just leave the decision making to him.
But for once, he's not here when you need him. Bet that doesn't happen often.
It's fine. He got Freminade to make me a little something for just this situation. Poof! A phaetometer.
What's this?
It looks pretty over the top, I know, but it's essentially just a box of cards. He kept the design simple, so it'd be harder to break. The way it works is, I pick a card at random, then look at the number on the card.
How does that help you make a decision?
Well, for example, if the number on the card is 5 or higher, I help Bonnie find her owner. If it's less than 5, I go back to the reception.
Simple and straightforward.
I just have to believe in the bond between me and my cards, and my fate will reveal itself to me in numerical form. At least, that's what Lenny said. Anyway, I guess I'll give you a demonstration. I didn't like that.
Hey, Ava
Was I
Wilson.
reading it wrong? Maybe if I just... Clearly, there's some design flaws to iron out. I'll have to let Freminade know.
I feel like maybe this wasn't a design issue. I'm doing fine. I'm just killing time until, me and a few of my friends are gonna do, like, a Toonami watch party adjacent thing on Anywave.
Let's see... Which card did I get? 4.
Less than 5. So that means no helping Bonnie.
Well, the cards fell on the ground though, so I don't think it counts as fate. If you want to get the right answer, you have to let fate decide. Also something Lenny said. So, to put it another way, if picking a card up off the ground is how to not leave it to fate, then that means it must be the wrong answer.
I think what Lenny really meant is sometimes you have to accept the answer you didn't want. I haven't streamed at all in several months due to, like, depression and, like, just a general lack of motivation. But I did do a stream last night where I did Chiori's quest and the Spiral Abyss. I'll probably be streaming daily throughout this patch because I signed up for the Twitch event thing and I have plenty of content to do. So...
Or... Why don't you pick a card? Since I ran into you here, that means... our fates are, like, interfering with each other.
You should leave the razzle-dazzling to Lenny.
Thank you. This one is final, I promise. Here, take the phaetometer. If it's 5 or above, that means it's successfully changed. Anything lower than 5 is a fail. Also, if you have your own thoughts about what I should do, feel free to share it. Now that I've got a good problem solver here to help, I don't need to run every little thing by fate.
Which games I play the most? I've been playing games less this year, but generally I play, like, I guess this game, Kingdom Hearts and like Soulsborne stuff the most, at least in terms of like the past couple of years. Um, I also used to play Battlefield a lot, albeit not on stream, but I got really sick and tired of 2042 being trash, so I uninstalled it. I'm not sure. Let's leave this one to fate.
Alright. Then let's see where fate will lead me.
Yeah, I did this one on my alt already. Alright.
So, we're looking for Bonnie's owner?
I have to ask about this deck of cards.
There's 20 cards in total, numbered 1 to 20. So there's only a 1 in 5 chance of drawing less than a 5. I should also mention, this time the cutoff was 5, but I just set that to wherever I feel like.
Wow, you really don't want to go back to that reception party.
To put it in perspective, I said I'd only do the show if I drew a 1. Fate can be pretty sneaky sometimes.
Favorite character in this game? It's hard to say exactly, because I like so many of the characters. I've never really been one for favorite characters. In terms of one that I probably prefer playing the most, it's definitely probably Yai Miko. She's the only 5-star character I have at C6 right now. So how do you plan to find Bonnie's owner?
I think I'll go to the Steambird and see about putting an ad in the paper. You wanna come along? I think Bonnie wants you to come with.
Sure, if it means I get to hang out with you for a bit longer. Fatometer, a deceptively grandiose looking card box that is actually quite simple. The number drawn seems to indicate a certain direction of fate, or perhaps the success or failure of a certain choice. As long as you believe in your bond with the cards and numbers shown will show your fate. Since Lenny said that, let's just tentatively take his word with a shaker of salt. I've never used this outside of the thing. I appreciate the offer. I really do. I just prefer not to use Discord because it's malware. I technically still have my Discord account, but I only keep it around for like video game modding communities that have been centralized on Discord, like the Final Fantasy 13 modding community, for example, or the Fairy Tale 2020 modding community.
Every stupendous day starts with a Steambird. Oh, Annette. Hi, traveler. What can I help you with?
We wanted to ask about the latest Tales of Humanity column.
I don't think so. Have you picked up a stray?
Yep. If there's no commission to follow up on, could we post a notice about the missing cat instead?
Why, of course. What a kind thing to do. Just fill out the form.
I do have like a Twitter if you want to, if you know, you want to like follow me on there or whatever, in case I do want to like ask you about that sort of thing.
Also, I just wanted to say thanks for keeping us company for so long. Well, I should probably head back to the drinks reception. Hopefully most of the people have left by now. If you've got some time, you should stop by my place tomorrow to see Bonnie. There's a nice cup of tea in it for you.
Looking forward to it, Lynette. I'll be there.
Alright, see you then.
Is there anything, like, specific about why you need access to, like, my Discord username for that? I mean, you could, like, show me your, like, previous artwork on, in, like, a Twitter DM or something, couldn't you? Oh, she doesn't have a voice here. Okay. So, 7 to 9 the next morning.
I believe this cat belongs to me.
I already told you, this isn't your cat.
Just take a breather, you two.
What's going on?
Oh, you're here. As you can probably see, you'll have to take a rain check on that tea I promised you. At least for now.
This is my friend's cat. He's preoccupied with some important business, so I came to retrieve her in his stead.
The way she speaks is loud and authoritative. It's like she's deliberately using her tone of voice to dispel any doubts about her integrity. Yeah, thank you, Ava Wilson. You can also follow me on Twitch if you want to catch, like, more of my streams, because I'll probably only be streaming for, like, about another hour, give or take, before I have to hop off to do that thing with my friends.
No, it's far more like
Ow. I forgot how loud that is. And thank you. Let me see. So it's Ava Wilson. How do I... There is a thing for that, right? Yeah, I have it here. So how does this get spelled? Ava Wilson 02. I don't know how that looks at the moment. Yeah, I need to slightly adjust its position. How about we let Bonnie decide?
Bonnie?
That's the name I've given her in the meantime.
Let's see who Bonnie decides to approach. It needs to be...
Well,
How do I...
things.
I don't remember... It seems she quite likes me.
I told you before. This is my friend's cat. It's normal for her not to trust me.
Listen, I'm the director of the Humane Society, okay?
Oh.
We've got so many strays, dogs, cats, you name it. I'm not even the one feeding them most of the time. You can hardly expect the cat to recognize me.
Then how are you so sure she belongs to you?
She just looked somewhat familiar, so I came to check, just in case. If she turns out to be one of ours, I'll take her back. Simple as that. Even if that's not the case, the Humane Society could still take her in, if no one else comes to claim her, that is.
What's the Humane Society?
We're an organization that specializes in rescuing and sheltering stray animals. We've been in business for several decades now. I'm Bernard, the current director.
The Humane Society. Huh. The name sounds familiar. I remember hearing good things. You're the one in the Quartier Lyonnais?
Yes, that's the one. Anyway, if it's not too much trouble, could I possibly take a closer look at the cat? If it turns out I really am mistaken, I suppose that means the cat belongs to this lady here. She would be the only remaining option after all.
It belongs to my friend.
With us here to keep watch, it should be fine.
Go on, Bunny.
Oh, nope. Looks like I was mistaken. They do look similar, but there's an ever so slight difference in this one's fur color. Deepest apologies, friends. Well, I suppose this means I still have a missing cat to search for. Apologies again for the confusion.
So, is this your friend's cat?
Oh, yes, exactly.
Wait a second. You lied earlier, didn't you?
Lied? I'm afraid I don't know what you mean.
A liar always has a tell. The look in their eyes, their breathing pattern, the way they hold themselves. The things that can give you away are often more numerous than you would think.
What are you talking about? The way I see it, you're conflating baseless conjecture with fact.
Normally, when someone is called out, their breathing speeds up as they begin to panic. But your breathing pattern hasn't changed one bit. In fact, it's been strangely calm and measured this entire time. It stands to reason, then, that
Do
you're
you
not
have, like,
like
any,
you
like,
were earlier,
favorite
but
characters or something?
if you're a bad guy, I'm sure you'll take off running the first chance you get. If you're a good guy, the most likely explanation is that you're a member of the Guards, or some similar organization.
And you're basing this off of...
Intuition. Nothing more.
intuition. Well, I have to hand it to you, Lynette. You're right. I'm a member of the Guards. The name's Elodie. I'm currently investigating a cross-border smuggling case. This cat here... Bonnie, what's her name? Well, her owner is one of the prime suspects of our investigation. A couple of days ago, our suspect got wind that we were on his tail and fled. That's most likely how he got separated from the cat. I just so happened to stumble upon your notice in the Steambird. So, I decided to see if he'd come back for her. But... it looks like I overestimated him.
If I were on the run, I don't think I'd come back either.
The impact of this case has been huge. The Marechaussee Phantom, the Guards, and the Special Patrol have all launched investigations. If there was even the slightest chance that he would show himself, I had to follow up on the lead.
That line delivery was weird. So, what's being smuggled?
A new kind of illegal drug, imitation synth. We confiscated all the synth on the market, but addiction isn't something that goes away overnight. Even without substances on the market, people are still looking for a way to get their next fix. And criminals are all too eager to capitalize on that addiction. That was the impetus for imitation synth. Needless to say, a small-scale market opened up very quickly.
I can see about, following you back later, because I don't have my browser open at the moment, and let me see. I don't want to accidentally consume too much RAM, because browsers these days are really unoptimized. So I'll check my followers list, like, later, after the stream, and, see what it is. What's your, like, what's your name on Twitter, like, specifically?
After the original synth debacle, we put several measures into place to prevent similar incidents from occurring. The perpetrators got smart, though, and shifted their sales overseas before those measures could kick in. That's when the imitation synth smuggling began. We only recently got word of the presence of imitation synth overseas. We managed to track down evidence of some early transactions. What we were able to find out, however, hasn't proven that useful given the amount of time that has passed. The Marechaussee Phantom launched an investigation to track down every person in Fontaine capable of producing a drug like that. That's how we learned about Bonnie's owner.
Who is he exactly? I'll see about checking it out at some point later if I can. And thank you for notifying me.
He's a researcher at the Fontaine Research Institute. His name is Pierre. Pierre Lafayette, to be exact.
Lefebvre.
The Marechaussee Phantom found him in Poisson. In addition to the cat, he also had a pendant with him.
Is that a ruler?
At first, there wasn't much cause for suspicion. A search of his house didn't reveal much to go off of either. The Marechaussee Phantom very nearly left it at that. It was only later that we realized the coat of arms on his pendant belonged to none other than the Lefebvre family, one of the most infamous aristocratic families in Fontaine. Obviously, this discovery prompted a further investigation into Pierre. At that point, however, we discovered that he'd already fled. Now the guards and the Special Patrol are all searching for him.
Could his family be hiding him?
That's not possible, actually. The Lefebvre family has been gone for a long time.
Exactly. Many years ago, several important members of the family, including the Patriarch, were murdered by an assassin of unknown origin. From that point on, the family's power and influence took quite the hit. The family is engaged in all manner of crimes. As you can imagine, there's no shortage of people waiting in the wings to take their revenge. And with the family severely weakened, they were able to do just that. Most of the remaining family members succumbed to sickness or hunger. The ones that survived are currently living out their days under a new identity. Pierre is one of those very survivors. He's been hiding away in the Fontaine Research Institute all these years. His true identity unbeknownst to all. Until now, that is.
Is it really okay to share all this information with us?
Well, my fellow guards have told me all about how smart and courageous you both are. And I know you possess a strong sense of justice. There could be a chance that Pierre, or one of his accomplices, might attempt to get close to Bonnie. Now that you've been briefed on the situation, I was hoping you'd help us keep a lookout. If I take Bonnie back to the guards with me, there's no way Pierre will try and come for her. Not even the most daring of criminals would attempt something like that.
So we should keep Bonnie with us for the time being?
I have to admit, I'm not holding out too much hope that Pierre will come back for her. But if there's even the slightest chance, then it's worth a shot. Well, I've got some other leads to follow up on. If Pierre does appear, please contact me right away.
What's wrong? You don't look so good.
It's nothing. I'm fine. It's just the head of the Lefebvre family. He was the eminent person who kidnapped me all those years ago. It was at a dinner party. Someone tricked me into boarding the Lefebvre family carriage. Whoever it was, they took me back to their home. But before anything worse could happen, Father intervened.
So that's what happened. Then the assassin LOD mentioned.
Yep. Father was the one who orchestrated the fall of the Lefebvre family. That's what led Lenny and I to join the House of the Hearth. After all these years. I never thought I'd hear the Lefebvre name again.
Are you okay?
Don't worry about me. I wasn't feeling sorry for myself. I was just thinking about Linny. He's been acting strange recently. He avoids me for days on end, consumes himself with some secret investigation, and then out of the blue pushes me to do that acting job. Thinking about it now, it's almost like the one I drew from that deck of cards was part of his plan all along. He must have asked Fremine to help him out. In any case, I know he's hiding something from me. He's really pulled out all the stops this time.
You think he knows about Pierre?
It's very possible. I'm sure he tried to send me away because he was afraid it would bring up some painful memories for me. It wasn't necessary, though. Even after all these years, he's still as overprotective as ever. You'll have to help me teach him a lesson if we run into him along the way.
Along the way? Are we going somewhere?
Yep. I want to head to the Fontaine Research Institute to learn more information about Pierre. Just let me activate search mode and then we'll head out. Who knows? Maybe we'll run into Linny along the way.
Are you trying to help out Linny with his investigation? Or are you trying to prove it yourself?
A little bit of both, perhaps. For the most part, though, I just have the sense that something's not right. Something isn't adding up about Pierre's story. I'm just not sure what.
I also want to know what secrets he's hiding. Sometimes you've just gotta take the bull by the horns, right?
Okay, I'll write a letter explaining everything to the crew. Once that's done, we can head out.
So I assume, Wilson, that you, like, draw anime characters, right? Oh. Ah, my expedition rewards. I need those.
Add Ast-
Lynette, you're, not at rehearsal?
You can drop the act, brother. In fact, I don't think either of us will have a need for acting anytime soon. You should know better than to try and keep something from me. You've never been able to do that, even when we were kids.
And that's why I tried to distract you with the masked mime show. But I guess you're just too good.
Care to introduce us to your new assistant?
This is Officer Shovras, captain of the Special Security and Surveillance Patrol. You may have met her already.
We meet again.
Nice to see you. I should clarify something. Mr. Linney's here at my invitation, not the other way around. To borrow your expression, Miss Lynette, I suppose that would make him my assistant more than anything. We've brought on Mr. Linney as a consultant in the past. He was instrumental in helping us crack a case involving a perpetrator who used magic tricks to commit crimes. I was hoping he'd be able to provide some valuable insight this time around as well.
Are you here because of the Lefebvre case?
So you've heard everything then?
That's exactly why we're here. There's always been questions surrounding the fall of the Lefebvre family. Some people even believe the House of the Hearth was involved. Whoever was behind it all was extremely cautious. They didn't leave a shred of evidence. This very fact, however, leads me to believe it was indeed the work of that Harbinger. I took a look at the entrance and exit records of all the carriages that night. Let's just say it wasn't hard to deduce that there's ill will between you two. Don't worry, I don't have any evidence to that effect, and I certainly don't plan on going to bat for such a despicable family. Plus, you were victims back then more than anything. I sought Mr. Linney's help with the smuggling case. Nothing more.
You're really teaming up with the House of the Hearth?
The way I look at it, it's a collaboration between us as people, not the organizations we represent. Besides, by working together, we can expose the truth as quickly as possible. You can hardly say that's at odds with the justice my organization strives for.
I'm assuming you wouldn't be opposed to some extra help.
Not at all. I was planning to invite you from the very beginning, Miss Lynette. It's just that my assistant here raised some objections.
Linny, I'm not the same person I was back then. That little girl who did nothing but cower in the corner in fear, she doesn't need saving anymore.
I know you want to protect your little sister, but little sisters don't stay little forever.
I'm sorry, Lynette. You're right. I let my concerns get the better of me.
Oh, and the next time you want to distract me, you should try a different approach.
Who's this? You pick up a stray while I was gone?
It's a bit complicated. I'll explain later. Anyway, her name's Bonnie.
Well, if there are no objections, then I suppose the only thing left to say is... Lynette, Traveler, welcome to the team.
It appears the Lefebvre family was very particular in their use of insignias and emblems. The family would use different emblems to mark differences in status, blood relation, and the like. In fact, the insignia that was discovered on the pendant was used to represent an illegitimate child.
So that would mean Pierre is a bastard child?
It's highly likely. That very status might have been what allowed him to emerge from the fall of his family relatively unscathed. It would also explain why he was able to assume a new identity as a researcher with relative ease.
We discovered something interesting, though. After talking to some of his co-workers, it appears he pretty much works at the Institute in name only. He's practically been cast out.
Wait, what happened?
Apparently, Pierre was once addicted to synth. He tried to use the resources at the Institute to create a substance with a similar effect. He claimed it was just for research purposes, but the Institute revoked his access to the relevant materials regardless. He was placed on disciplinary leave, pending a thorough investigation of his actions. But it seems the Institute ran into some trouble along the way. Could have been a lack of personnel or a timing issue. In any case, they had to table their formal investigation into Pierre. Unfortunately, that also included reporting any relevant information to the higher authorities. As for his family background, it appears none of his co-workers at the Institute were aware of that information. All they could tell us was that he was quite the recluse.
Maybe we'll have to take our investigation elsewhere then. Did you find anything useful in his residence?
Other than the pendant, we didn't find anything else of note at his residence in Poisson. Based on the samples of imitation synth...
Hello, whoever's from YouTube.
It appears the substance leaves behind strong traces wherever it's produced or stored. Those traces might not be obvious to the casual observer, but they're not something our guard poodles would miss. Pierre's home, though, came up completely clean. We didn't find any records indicating possible involvement in overseas transactions either. So, the Marechaussee Phantom didn't view him as a major suspect at first.
Maybe he had a separate, dedicated area where he made the imitation synth.
Well, his neighbors did say he was often gone for long stretches of time. You would think with him out and about so much, people would have spotted him around Poisson, but residents said they barely ever saw him in town. If his reclusive nature was just a matter of keeping a low profile, I guess it would make sense for him to have a secret base to carry out his business.
After he disappeared, the guards conducted a thorough search of Poisson, but they didn't come across any suspicious locations.
Poisson.
What is it, Lynette?
You know Hotel de Boer, where I first found Bonnie? To get there from Poisson, you have to cross a stretch of ocean. It's not somewhere a cat could just wander off on its own.
A cat? You mean...
Bonnie is Pierre's cat.
Oh, that's right! When the Marechaussee Phantom first tracked him down, I remember there being something about a cat in their report. So this is her?
From what we've learned about Pierre's habits, he doesn't seem like the type to venture out without a purpose. So what you're saying, Lynette, is that Bonnie couldn't have gone missing in Poisson. If that's true, then...
She must have wandered off only after Pierre brought her to his secret base.
Exactly. Bonnie might even know where it is.
Wait, you think the cat can lead us there? But she's not trained like one of our guard poodles. How is she supposed to understand what we want her to do?
Lynette could give it a try. I can give it a go. Meow, meow, meow. Fuck.
Guess she's a little skittish around strangers.
I'll leave it to you then.
Meow. Meow meow. Meow? Near the coast, the beach, and beneath the cliffs. The place we're looking for is most likely north of the court of Fontaine.
Well, I've certainly never taken a witness statement like this before.
Well, if it works out, maybe it's something worth getting used to.
Cats and humans are actually pretty alike. When it comes to communication, most of what we want to convey can be accomplished through body language alone. But humans tend to rely too much on speech to ever take advantage of that fact. Of course, body language has its limitations. You're not going to be able to get across anything too complicated.
The important thing is that we now have a lead. Let's try and find a place that matches the clues Bonnie gave us.
This was... yeah, way over there. Wait, now I have a question on exactly how they managed to get Bonnie, like, over there. Did they, like, pick up the cat and wind glide?
Seems like Bonnie is trying to take us somewhere. Gardamex ahead.
Look out!
Into the wind.
This way, Pergaloo.
Shine down!
Everyone hold hands. Right here, right now, right here.
Wow, Lynette, you found this place so easily. If I thought there was any chance you'd say yes, I'd recruit you into the Special Patrol here and now. No questions asked.
Sounds familiar. I pretty much receive letters daily from people trying to poach her from me.
Let's just focus on our search. There's a lot to investigate.
Aha! Just as we thought. This is where the imitation synth was being made.
These bottles and jars, they're all imitation synth?
Looks like he's got more than just imitation synth stashed around here. In addition to the raw materials needed to synthesize the substance itself, there's a large quantity of cleaning agents and a few drugs I haven't been able to identify. These cleaning agents are likely used to dispel traces of the substance, like its smell. The Special Patrol did some digging into imitation synth. Our records indicate that it's very difficult for ordinary people to detect traces left behind by the stuff. I'm sure that was the case for Pierre as well. It must have taken a considerable amount of time and skill to ensure all those traces get washed away. But what are these other drugs for? But what are these other drugs for?
The material these bags are made of, it's quite rare.
Doesn't it look similar to the material used for your magic pockets?
It's the very same, actually. Romaritime flower fiber. But there's something special about the composition of these bags. I took a closer look, and it appears they're not only waterproof, but also corrosion and leak resistant. Even the strings look specially designed to keep the bags closed nice and tight. I came across some bags made of the same material just now, but they were much smaller and thinner. From the look of them, they seemed far less durable as well.
So, kind of like one of those small sealed bags?
Very similar, actually. Normally, it would be easy for a guard poodle to sniff out the imitation synth, but if it was sealed away in a bag like that, it might be possible to elude detection for some time. But what could these big bags be for then? If the goal is to keep the imitation synth hidden and sealed away, these bags seem a bit too conspicuous. But what could these big bags be for then? If the goal is to keep the imitation synth hidden and sealed away, these bags seem a bit too conspicuous.
When the Marechaussee Phantom searched Pierre's house, there was no sign of these barrels, right?
Oh, that text is tiny. He must have moved them, but carrying them all the way out here would attract way too much attention.
You're right. That doesn't seem like his way of doing things. How did he get them here then?
The barrels show signs of water damage. Dried up water stains can be seen around the circumference of the barrels. There seems to be a pattern to the location of the water stains. For some reason, they appear to be limited to the lower half of the barrels. The lids don't seem very tight, leaving sizable gaps around the edges, but there doesn't appear to be any traces of water inside the barrels.
Only the lower halves of the barrels appear to have been submerged in water.
Based on the various ingredients we've found, this appears to be where Pierre was cooking up his imitation synth. It looks like he used a special cleaning agent to get rid of any residual traces of the substance on his person before he left. That's how he was able to get past the guard poodles.
That's why the Marechaussee Phantom didn't find anything suspicious in his home.
So then he transferred the imitation synth into small sealed bags and took it somewhere else for the drop-off.
No. I don't believe our suspect is the kind of person who'd go around carrying incriminating evidence with him. That would potentially create too many eyewitnesses. The cleaning agent and the sealed bags might get past the guard poodles, but if a member of the public or even a guard on patrol happened to see him during the drop-off, a quick search would reveal everything. That's still a very risky operation.
What about if the drop-off happened at sea? There'd be no one around to see him.
The barrels we found were wet around the base, but the top half was dry. As if they'd been standing upright in the water. If you put a barrel in the water, it will normally float on its side. Unless it's heavily loaded, in which case it'll sink.
So he must have used something to tightly seal the big bags full of air, turning them into airtight flotation devices.
Yes. With flotation rings around the body of the barrels, they'd stay upright in the water. And then he could afford to load them more fully.
You think he used floating barrels? I suppose if he acted at night, when there are very few other boats around and visibility is low, it's a valid theory. We can't rule it out.
But then, wouldn't the barrels be carried off by the waves or the currents? How would the person doing the pickup know where to look?
Barrels that could float away and get lost at sea. Sounds difficult to keep in one place. Kind of like certain pets.
Traveler, can you come take a dip in the sea with me? I have a feeling that somewhere down there, we might find some rope. If a rope can be used to keep a pet from running away, then why not a barrel?
I can't believe how much progress we're making with this investigation. Without your help, getting this far would have taken me an awful lot of time and manpower.
It's rare to see Lynette in serious mode. I wonder how long she'll keep it activated for.
I just want to get a good look at the cat. I really don't like the way the camera works in this game sometimes.
The wreckage of a small boat? This isn't the place. Got it. Time to go up and report. As expected, we found a few pieces of rope and some anchoring stones underwater. If you attach them to a floating barrel, it would look like this. With this anchoring system, it would be possible to use floating barrels for the drop-off. You would just need to drop them in the water at the agreed-upon location. We also came across the wreckage of a small boat. It must have been left out on the water and capsized due to the force of the wind and waves. Its small size, however, would have made it perfect for staying undetected.
Let's talk this through. Based on the evidence we've collected, it seems like Pierre would row a small boat out to the agreed-upon transfer point, drop off the barrels, leave, and then row back and retrieve them after the transfer was complete.
Why use such a convoluted drop-off method, though? Wouldn't it be easier for both parties to meet up at the transfer point on their respective vessels and exchange the goods right then and there?
It could be that he was trying to avoid meeting up with his associate face to face. As one of the sole survivors of the Lefebvre family, maybe he was just used to that sort of elusive lifestyle.
It seems like Pierre deliberately chose the floating barrel method so that the goods could be dropped off and picked up at separate times. That way, the two parties wouldn't have to meet each other.
Well, if that's the case, they must not have a very close working relationship.
Let's not jump to any conclusions just yet. Assumptions can be detrimental to solving a case. It's possible they were just trying to keep a low profile. Two boats sailing to the same location at once could be too conspicuous. The most important thing is that we can now confirm Pierre wasn't acting alone. The floating barrel drop-off system is proof enough of that. Let's say for now that he was only in charge of producing the imitation synth. That would mean there has to be at least one other person involved in the operation. likely in charge of transporting the goods across the border.
That explains why we couldn't find evidence linking him to any overseas operations.
Since we've determined that the goods were transported by boat, maybe we can track down some travel logs or something.
We can certainly check the various ports for that information. It's possible, however, that Pierre's associate also used a small boat for the transport, and docked along the shore rather than at a large port. If that's the case, it's unlikely there would be any record left behind.
Have you looked into the ports already?
Absolutely. Before Pierre disappeared, we made sure to investigate all sorts of outward-bound vessels. We also had port authorities keep a lookout for anything suspicious. Unfortunately, we were never able to find out how they managed to get the imitation synth across the border.
A small boat and a few barrels isn't going to get you very far.
You're right. Whatever vessel was used for the pickup, the person responsible for smuggling the substance out of Fontaine would have had to use a larger vessel for the actual transport. That's the only way they would be able to smuggle on a large enough scale to make a profit. They must have found a way to disguise the imitation synth to clear port inspections.
Well, even if we can't find any travel logs, we can still search for other clues.
Exactly. We can't let any opportunities slip through the cracks. Although, given the amount of ports that could be involved, we should probably split up.
I'll run home and ask some of my brothers and sisters to try and dig up some information.
I should also head back and update my platoon on our progress. I'll grab some reinforcements while I'm at it. Lynette, Traveler, why don't you head to Lumiduce Harbor and see what you can find out?
All right. Come on, Bonnie. You too.
How do they get the cat over there, though? Are they just gonna carry it all the way? There's like an ocean, you know? Or they call it an ocean, it's really just a lake.
Oh, Lynette, Traveler. And Bonnie, too. What brings you all here?
Did something happen?
We're here to check the travel logs.
Oh. I see. Thank you for everything you're doing for the people of Fontaine.
She sounds like she's about to sneeze in some of these line deliveries. What are you doing here?
I'm in charge of guarding the port. You mentioned you were after some travel logs, right? I can go fetch those for you.
Looks like I've got another hard day of work ahead of me.
Are things usually pretty hectic around here?
No, not usually. It's this incident that happened recently. Before that, everything was normal. All we had to do was confiscate anything suspicious and we could call it a day. Pretty simple stuff. But things are much more complicated now. We somehow let suspicious cargo pass through the port undetected. Not even our guard poodles were able to sniff it out. Even worse, we still don't know how the perpetrator was able to conceal the goods so well.
By suspicious cargo, do you mean imitation synth?
Yep. However, prohibited substances are just one example. We confiscate all sorts of contraband during the course of our inspections. Or at least, we're supposed to.
So what happens to the goods you confiscate?
Oh, we keep them in a storage locker. If they turn out to be something particularly dubious, we'll turn them over to the Maison Orderly. If the goods are only slightly suspicious but could otherwise be harmless, like raw materials that could potentially be used to create contraband, we return them to the ship they were confiscated from, instead of letting them pass through the port.
Sorry for the wait. These are the travel logs for all the recent activity at the port.
Oh, you brought Gerard with you.
Actually, he followed me here himself. It's like he smells something on me. Huh. I wonder why Gerard is reacting to you two so strongly.
Could be because we just left the place where the imitation synth was made. Whatever Gerard smelled on you probably came from us.
Huh? We were so careful not to touch it, but we still ended up with traces on us. If it leaves a residue so easily, I just don't understand how the culprit was able to disguise the goods at all.
Why don't you have a look at the travel logs first? All ships coming in and out of the port are recorded here, except for the ones the port authorities ride to and from work.
You flip through the numerous travel logs. You notice several instances where the Humane Society is listed. The name really seems to stand out.
The Humane Society.
We've encountered that organization before, right?
Their name is all over the exit logs. The purpose for leaving is always listed as overseas adoption.
Ah, the director of the organization explained that actually. He said a lot of the cat and dog breeds unique to Fontaine are also very popular overseas. So, his organization offers an overseas adoption program.
Bernard, the director of the Humane Society, was the man who came looking for Bonnie earlier.
The cat that fled from Pierre looks just like the cat that the Humane Society is looking for. Could that really be a coincidence? It seemed as if Bernard was also hiding something. He seemed so insistent, but only ran a cursory check before just leaving like that. When he came looking for Bonnie earlier, what if he wasn't actually there to check if Bonnie was his missing cat? Maybe he was there for some other purpose.
Have you figured it out too, Traveler? The way the criminal disguised the goods? When Bernard asked to take a closer look at Bonnie, he was actually checking whether there was any imitation synth in her stomach.
He was using the animals at his shelter to smuggle imitation synth.
Wait, what?
The sealed bags we found at the secret base. They were specially made to be corrosion resistant.
So that they wouldn't be digested.
There were gaps around the lids of the barrels, and airbags were used to keep them upright in the water.
So that the animals would be able to breathe.
Those drug shivers found at the secret base. She most likely didn't recognize them because they're not used on human beings. It's an anesthetic used on pets. The perpetrator must have given it to the animals.
So that they would keep still in the floating barrels.
Pierre must have made the animals swallow the sealed bags full of imitation synth at his secret base. Then he stuffed them into floating barrels and left the rest to Bernard.
The sealed bags combined with an animal's body odor would certainly be enough to mask the scent of imitation synth.
During our inspections, we would have never thought to inspect the bellies of those animals for anything suspicious. Even if we tried to feel around for something, I'm sure it would be difficult to detect.
Exactly. I bet Bernard even transported animals with synth in their stomach alongside ones without. That way, it would be even harder to say with certainty that something was amiss.
Do you think Bonnie could have imitation synth in her stomach?
She's probably in the clear. Otherwise, Bernard would have never left without her. I'm guessing he didn't know whether Pierre had already hidden the next batch of imitation synth before he fled. Just imagine. He sees the notice we put in the Steambird, and it turns out that one of the very cats he gave to Pierre for the smuggling operation is out in the open, roaming the streets of Fontaine. If Pierre had already hidden the next batch of imitation synth, then Bonnie would practically be living proof of their crimes. He would have had no choice but to go after her.
So, that's why he came to find you and insisted on taking a closer look at the cat.
Pierre must have fled in a hurry. That fact is probably what spared Bonnie.
Wait a about hiding the substance in the pets, but those, what did you call them again? Floating barrels? Why even put the animals in there in the first place? If you've got something as convenient as a floating barrel, why not just stuff it with the imitation synth directly? Why not wait to hide the stuff until after the exchange has been made?
In order to make sure the animals could swallow the sealed bags, they made them extremely thin. Had they not done that, the animals would have likely bitten or chewed through them.
And if any of the imitation synths leaked out, they also would have needed a lot of cleaning agents to get rid of the resulting smell.
That step would have required a lot of energy, as well as a certain amount of technical expertise. So, it was better left to the more experienced Pierre. We've already proven how easy it is to pick up trace amounts of imitation synth, so I'm sure Bernard was taking all the precautions he could to avoid the same fate.
Okay. Then, let's head to the Humane Society right away and bring that guy to justice. I'll bring a Gardamek to speed up the process.
Sorry, but I can't go with you. Surely you'll be able to handle him, what, between Elodie's Gardamek and all three of you?
The headquarters of the Humane Society should be somewhere around here. Bernard could show up any moment now.
Ah, you're the people from earlier. Wait, you're from the guards?
After him! We can't let him get away! Give it up, Bernard.
Mercy, have mercy. I'll talk. I'll tell you everything I know.
The Humane Society has done so much good over the years, and yet you have committed such an atrocious deed in its name.
Look, I didn't have a choice, okay? My father cared about those blasted animals so much, he didn't bother to take care of his human wife and son at all. While those animals were showered with love, I lived worse than a dog.
No one asked. Tell me, how did you first get to know Pierre?
Well, after I took over the Humane Society, it gradually became harder and harder to maintain its operations. Until one day, someone suddenly passed me a letter. It said that I could stand to get a large sum of money as long as I helped them to transport some animals abroad. It was only after a few such transports that I finally understood what I was really transporting. But then, Pierre wrote to me, saying that we were already partners in crime and that I better keep cooperating with him if I didn't want to be reported to the guards. I would order wooden barrels and flotation devices according to his instructions, and then load the sleeping animals onto a boat. Once I sailed to the location he provided, I would dump everything together into the sea. And a few days after that, I'd come by again in my boat and pick up the animals sleeping in the barrels. Once I had received enough of them, I'd bring them to the harbor to be adopted abroad. That guy, Pierre, he was running the entire show. He set up all the meeting times and found all the foreign adopters. Oh, and he even supplied all of the goods too. I just did the transport. He was the one who planned out and executed everything else.
So, where is he now?
Look, I don't know, okay? I've never ever met him in person. We've only ever communicated through letters.
And when did he send his final letter to you?
Just last night, he said that the Marechaussee Phantom is now after him, so he's planning to go into hiding for some time. He didn't mention where he's thinking about going, though, but he did tell me to look out for the guards.
It's been a few days since Pierre's last appearance. I'd wager that he sent that letter after he found his hiding spot.
So, where is that letter now?
I burned them. It was on his orders. I had to burn every letter after reading them. I wasn't even allowed to share them with the rest of the Society employees.
Sure sounds like you're trying to use the lack of witnesses or evidence to pin the blame on Pierre.
No, I swear, this time I'm only telling you the truth.
Well, we can check the truth of your statements at the Opera House. I hope you know what'll be coming for you if I were to find any discrepancy between the evidence and the testimony you just gave.
I know, I swear I was just telling the truth.
My thanks to you both. Had it not been for you, I really don't know what would have happened to this case.
Bonnie helped, too.
That's true. It was all thanks to her that Bernard was finally exposed. And it looks like she's grown quite fond of you two as well. Then I'll leave you be. Just let me know if you find any other new leads.
Seems that Lynette still has something on her mind. Something on your mind still?
It was that obvious, huh? Well, even though it didn't feel like Bernard was lying, after talking to him, I'm getting an even stronger sense that something's not quite right. We investigated so quickly that perhaps we've missed a thing or two along the way. Let me activate deduction mode and consider things again from the top to see if we can find anything new. Is there still anything unresolved or strange that we should try to consider?
About what we found in Poisson.
The Marechaussee Phantom found Bonnie and the Lefebvre pendant at Pierre's residence. That was the beginning point of our investigation.
The pattern on the pendant is proof that its owner is an illegitimate child of the Lefebvre family, but this shouldn't be all. The Lefebvre family is infamous in Fontaine, and even their innocent scions became targets of revenge. But Pierre just carried the pendant with him as if it was an ordinary piece of jewelry. I can't seem to piece everything together into a cohesive picture. Pierre became the key suspect in the case because of a suspicious cat and a suspicious pendant. According to Bernard, the trafficked animals were taken directly to Pierre's base, rather than to Poisson. Bonnie has been with Pierre ever since the first meeting between Pierre and the Marechaussee Phantom, and that's why Elodie came looking for her. But that shouldn't be all.
Why would he leave such an obvious trail for us to follow, when he took so much care to not leave any traces of imitation synth in his home?
About Bernard's letters.
Bernard claims to have received a letter last night from Pierre. In the letter, Pierre stated that he had gone into hiding. Is there something wrong with the letter?
Regardless of whether he sent it anonymously or secretly delivered it himself, it's no longer something we can follow up on. Bonnie had already been out on the loose for a few days when we found her yesterday morning. That means that she had already broken free when the letter was written. The letter didn't mention Pierre's hiding spot, although it makes sense that Pierre wouldn't want anyone to find him. If the point of the letter was to tell Bernard to get on his guard, then why didn't it also warn him about Bonnie?
If Bonnie had imitation synth in her body, then she was a liability that had to be recovered at all costs. But if she wasn't carrying anything, then it would have made sense to tell Bernard not to worry. And thinking about it, Bernard only attracted our attention in the first place because he came to look for Bonnie. Could it be that the person who wrote the letter also knew nothing about Bonnie's whereabouts? Or they had a separate goal entirely?
is an unexplained part in the operation of this trafficking ring.
Well, we've discovered that Bernard is responsible for the trafficking, while Pierre deals with supplying the goods. Is there something else in this scheme that we're missing?
They always communicated in writing, and all of those letters have been burned, so we can no longer confirm or trace anything. Any past member of the Lefebvre family would probably have a number of connections outside of Fontaine. We've already proven that Bernard and Pierre coordinated their handoffs by passing floating barrels to each other on open stretches of water. Bernard can be compensated for his work after completing a shipment. No suspicious record would be left as long as he receives the funds as an individual, rather than through the Humane Society. According to Chevreus's investigations, Pierre has been formally reprimanded for synth-related research and can no longer get any materials from the Fontaine Research Institute.
Yeah, according to Bernard, Pierre also supplied all of the goods. But if the Marechaussee Phantom's records are correct, Pierre should have lost all access to the materials required to create the imitation synth. And the Institute has also not reported any theft of their stocks. The final question is, why did I sense that something wasn't right after hearing Bernard's testimony? Even more so than before.
Pierre made such a complicated operations plan, yet also exposed himself so easily to the investigating guards. Both written letters and handoffs using floating barrels are methods of communication that can be intercepted. It almost feels like the plan and the expose were done by two separate individuals, and Pierre was set up. Bernard has never met Pierre in person. There's still a third person out there. Even Bernard himself never knew that it wasn't Pierre that had been pulling his strings all along. It was someone else.
Deductive mode deactivated. I think we may be close to the actual answer. Perhaps we are now closing in on the truth.
Now behave, and follow me to the interrogation room.
Ow! That hurt. Ow!
They're about to leave. Is it really okay to let them go? No, we can't let her get away. Hold it right there.
Is there something else you need from me, Traveler?
Bernard and Pierre. They weren't really acting alone, were they?
Huh?
I see. It all makes sense now.
Hey, what are you talking about? Look, even our confessed criminal here has no idea what you're saying.
Because he has been kept in the dark all along. And I assume it's the same with Pierre.
Bernard thought he was communicating with Pierre. And Pierre thought he was taking orders from Bernard. But for all this time, neither of them knew that there was a third person all along.
That never quite added up for me. Why did Pierre feel compelled to return to his home with Bonnie and the pendant, and make them so easy to find for the Marechaussee Phantom?
Any animals Pierre received from the floating barrels should have been taken directly to his base. And considering his precarious situation, the pendant should have been the last thing Pierre would leave lying around.
these things are in stark contrast to his usual meticulous and vigilant behavior. There's only one reasonable explanation. He was following orders, just like Bernard. He probably received the following instructions right before the Phantom came knocking on his door. Bring the cat and the pendant, and our undercover agent will be sure to help you. Unbeknownst to him, however, the third person who wrote that letter to him had long decided to sacrifice him and Bernard to save themselves.
They instructed the two men to communicate through letters and barrels specifically so that they'd never get to meet each other. Honestly, this third person probably planned to sell both of them out from the very beginning.
What? You can't be serious. There was a third person involved?
If you focus only on Bernard's testimony, it's easy to believe that only Bernard and Pierre were working together. The case appeared extremely simple. Bernard did the trafficking, Pierre the imitation synth production, drugging, and stuffing.
With everything accounted for, the third person would then be cleared of all suspicion.
Wait. But that doesn't make any sense. If that's the actual truth, then as soon as Pierre is caught, he'll explain his side of the story and the third person will...
Yep, which is why the third person made sure that Pierre would never be found again. Once they had instructed Pierre to expose himself, the third person wrote to Pierre again, suggesting that everything had been taken care of, and he should take Bonnie and safely return to his base.
They then ambushed Pierre and made him disappear.
Of course, Pierre's disappearance at such a sensitive time immediately made him a prime suspect. Knowing that Bonnie had last been seen with him, all the third person would have to do from that point on would be to lead the Phantom to investigate the Humane Society and get Bernard to confess the truth.
Bernard would then testify that Pierre was the one who came up with the whole plot, and Pierre would be seen as having gone into hiding in anticipation of getting caught.
Wait, so you're saying that the letter I received yesterday, the one that made me think Pierre was still alive, it was also sent by the third person?
Is that what happened? I'll get back to headquarters right away and reinvestigate this case from the top.
Not so fast.
Chevra said that assumptions can be detrimental to solving a case. Someone among us, however, has been feeding us all kinds of preconceived notions ever since our first meeting. They suggested that Pierre's disappearance was an attempt to escape the judgment of the law, and that Pierre was a scion of the Lefebvre family. But if the disappearance is truly just a cover-up for a murder, then couldn't the true scion have been an illegitimate daughter, rather than an illegitimate son?
Miss Elodie Lefebvre. There was a typo in Lynette's previous line. There was 2 V's in the Lefebvre for some reason.
Huh?
Haven't you taken this joke a bit too far? You're right. I did let a lot of assumptions get to my head when I first started to talk to you about the case. I'll make sure to correct my behavior.
You deliberately fed us lies, but even you could not control every last detail of your plan. There was a flaw in your scheme, and something didn't quite go as planned. Getting the Marechaussee Phantom to notice Pierre was only the first part of your plan. Had they failed to take notice of the Humane Society, they could have cast a wider net. And you couldn't predict what they might possibly find, if given enough time. This, of course, was the main weakness of your plan.
And once the Special Patrol and Linny got involved, it became even harder to control the outcome of the investigation.
As someone accustomed to acting from behind the scenes, you didn't want to take the risk of personally proposing a raid on the Humane Society. So, you thought about pulling a few more strings, so all the suspicion would point towards Bernard and his society.
A great option, of course, would be to also dispose of Bonnie and leaving her body at Pierre's base in anticipation of a later discovery.
Once the Phantom expanded their search, it would only be a matter of time before they found Pierre's base. If a cat last seen with the suspect turned up dead at the imitation synth base, it wouldn't be long until the Phantom would figure out exactly how she had been mistreated and turn their eyes towards the one organization that has been sending boatloads of animals out of Fontaine.
However, something unexpected happened at the base. Bonnie managed to escape in the chaos.
It was probably during your ambush of Pierre. You didn't even have the time to check if she had already been stuffed full of imitation synth. Still, you soon found another opportunity. Before long, Bonnie had made her way back into the city, and even popped up on the Steambird. Like Bernard, you desperately wanted to confirm the contents of her stomach, so you hurried to find us. Unlike Bernard, however, you were hoping that Pierre did have the time to make her swallow a load of imitation synth. While investigating the suspect's cat, we unexpectedly discovered that the suspect has been smuggling imitation synth using living animals as intermediaries. That was your plan, in any case. With that, you'd have been able to lead the investigation towards the Humane Society.
But Bonnie was very lucky.
Bonnie had managed to escape before Pierre was able to stuff her full of imitation synth. That part of your plan could no longer be carried out. But as shrewd as you were, you came up with another plan right away. You manipulated the Traveler and I to help you identify Bernard as a key suspect.
You knew Linny was investigating the case with Chevreuse, and you also knew of Lynette's previous encounter with the Lefebvre family.
You used the Lefebvre name as bait to get us to join your investigation. With 2 extra bodies around, the Special Patrol is sure to soon take note of the strange event of Bernard somehow having a reason to look for Pierre's cat.
So, what you're saying is, I went to all that trouble just for the chance that you might put forth the suggestion that would lead you down the wrong path.
Of course, you did far more than that. Just now at Lumidu's Harbor, were you not the person who highlighted the suspicious activities of the Society?
By showing us the port's travel logs.
Oh,
You even highlighted the Society's activities during your compilation of the logs, so they'd be immediately visible to anyone examining the records. Moreover, the logs contained no records of the Port Authority's activities. In other words, your activities.
and what are you trying to suggest with that?
I am insinuating that you had plenty of opportunities to transfer the raw materials for imitation synth from the harbor to a boat, and then sail over to the meeting place full of floating barrels.
Once Bernard had placed the animals in the barrels, he'd open the lids and also dump in the raw materials. As long as you did it before Pierre came for his pickup, there'd be no one the wiser.
And that's how neither the trafficker nor the manufacturer knew there was a third person who supplied the raw materials, and surreptitiously operated between them.
First, you got in touch with both parties and secured the raw materials. Then you instructed Bernard to prepare the floating barrels and the animals. After that, you slipped the raw materials into the barrels next to the animals, and requested that Pierre pick up the barrels and bring them back to his base.
Pierre manufactured imitation synth using the raw materials you provided, stuffed the animals, and placed the animals back into the barrels. Having received the green light from you as Pierre, Bernard then retrieved his animals, and shipped them out of Fontaine once he had received enough for a full batch. This is the truth behind your smuggling ring.
I can't believe it. I never put 2 and 2 together.
You've sure got an extremely lively imagination.
So what do you think she's going to say next?
Ever thought about a career in writing crime novels?
Ever thought about a career in writing crime novels, huh?
It appears that it's quite easy to predict what you'll think or say. Then if we apply that to this case, we can also think of a few places to look for incriminating evidence. You know very well that this case will not end until Pierre is found, so you will have him commit suicide out of fear and shame to end the investigation for good. That way, you can also pin the blame for the overseas smuggling activities, the theft of the harbor's confiscated raw materials, and even the Lefebvre name on him. After all, dead men tell no tales. But you still want it to appear as if he had sent that last letter to Bernard, so you have to make sure he cannot be found until after Bernard has confessed to the authorities. To do that, you either will hide his body until you've found an appropriate time to set up a fake suicide scene, or you'll dump it someplace where it'll be hard to determine the exact time of death. Submerged in water, for instance. The location would ideally allow you to keep the body hidden for some time while also letting you keep an eye on it.
An example of such a place may be somewhere in your own boat, or underneath the waters near Lumiduce Harbor. You could also keep him in a very cool environment to be handled later, or set a fire to make it look like he had burned himself to a crisp.
There are only so many options to hide a person's time of death, after all. As long as the Phantom investigates each of the possibilities in turn, they'll surely find Pierre's remains. Especially since, as the prime suspect who will now be taken into custody, you will no longer have the time to move him, or set up a fake suicide scene to cover up the murder.
How absurd. And on what grounds will you order my arrest? Don't think for a second that your spouts of nonsense will amount to any kind of real argument. After all, I'm...
Elodie Lefebvre! As the captain of the Special Security and Surveillance Patrol, I hereby declare you as a suspect in the case. If you have any objections, you may raise them later during interrogation.
Chevreuse, Linny, you're here too.
That's right. We received a message from Lumiduce Harbor that you were going to investigate the Humane Society. We didn't expect to run into you at such a critical moment.
While at the harbor, we noticed something else extremely interesting. Apparently, you often used all kinds of excuses to swap your shifts. And if one were to match the times of your shifts to the activities of the Humane Society and those of certain foreign ships, they'd find them to be an exact match.
That's just a coincidence.
Yes, I'm sure you have already thought of a dozen different ways to explain away the suspicious activities, but as far as evidence goes, that should be enough to warrant taking you into custody.
Don't worry. If it turns out that the guards are still unable to find any evidence after all this, Lynette and I will do everything in our power to clear your name.
Although judging by her reaction, I assume no follow-up from us will be needed.
The Lefebvres were infamous for using disguise and infiltration to achieve their goals. Who would have thought that they would have planted someone within the guards?
Judging from the timeline, they likely arranged for you to enter the guards before the fall of the clan. But they probably didn't expect you to turn it to your advantage and use your job to save yourself during the purge.
Not only that, but you actively participated in the interrogation, arrest, and judgment of the Lefebvres during their fall, thus clearing yourself of suspicion. You brutally and cruelly abandoned your allies as soon as they outlived their usefulness, just like a lizard cutting off its own tail in order to live. You've been doing this for years.
So you played me like a fool after all? Ugh!
What was that word you used? Ally? You think that someone as foolish as him is worthy to call himself my ally? They were worthless scum, all of them. Not just Bernard and Pierre, but those Lefebvres too. They always just saw me as a tool. I lost all my chances of a normal life just because I was born into their lot. Not only that, but because they wanted me to become an undercover agent, they stripped me of my name, too. I had to live in constant fear of them while they were alive. And even once they were gone, I had to continue to bury my heritage and my name. Always worrying that their enemies would come knocking at the door. Do you know anything about what I've been through over all these years? My life as the last Lefebvre?
There's a hint of drama in the voice of the suddenly agitated Elodie. It feels like her anger may be part of some kind of bluff.
I don't, and neither do I care.
No one asked about your past. You can save that speech for the trial.
Are you for real? Aren't you a Lefebvre victim too?
Elodie, you're the only one still living under the shadow of a name.
That's enough. Keep your hands where I can see them and do not resist arrest. If you have more to say, save it for the interrogation room.
What a joke. What a joke! Hey! Don't come any closer.
What's that?
The small device that Elodie took out appears very crude, as if it's made from paper mache.
This is... I've secretly planted loads of explosives in the Humane Society. Just one step closer and... whether they're cats, dogs, or just unlucky human employees, they'll all be blown up into smithereens. Surely, you bunch of goody two-shoes won't let that happen, right?
Oh boy.
Did you think I was blind? Gardamex, get him!
Huh.
Not good. She's trying to escape. We need to end this fight as soon as possible.
There is no escape! Busted so quickly, huh? Good thing I've already bought enough time to escape. Ah!
Phew. So I was right after all. It's easier to deal with the person causing the problem than the problem itself.
And what about that device she had?
This is it. Looks like it's just a toy.
So, she really was just bluffing.
Guess that's probably why she suddenly flipped and knocked out Bernard. He probably knew that there were no explosives at the Society.
She also pretended like she had a villainous breakdown, as if she had no choice but to kill to escape her life.
Well, given that she never even showed her face to Bernard and Pierre, I had my doubts that she'd have gone to the Society in person to plant explosives.
Thank you for your help, everyone. I'll take them back for thorough questioning, and find someone better to take over the Humane Society. I might need a few statements from everybody. Would you be able to come with me?
If statements are all you need, can Lenny provide them on my behalf? I still need to go back and explain some things to the crew. I also had an appointment with the Traveler before we got interrupted.
You mean, when you said I could stop by your place?
Ah, so you do remember. Yes, I invited you to come over to our place. Once I'm done talking with the troop, I'll make a nice cup of tea and bring Bonnie to wait for you outside of my door. Black tea and a cute kitty. Truly the best combo for standby mode. Want some?
A cup of tea, please.
Mm-hmm. I hope you'll like it.
About Elodie's case, are you not interested in any follow-up developments from it?
Not at all. Information is indeed very important, but if you were to try to collect every piece of information you come across, your efficiency would actually decrease. Plus, if you just think about it, what sounds more fun? writing a statement, or enjoying a tea party?
The tea party. The cute kitty.
Great answer. That'd be my pick too. Had we not run into that case, we could have spent the entire day like this. But now, I'm running low on both time and energy.
The key isn't how long you spend in standby mode. With quality time, you should be able to recharge more quickly.
You're right. I can sense it. I'm recharging very quickly at the moment.
I still have a question, though. When did you start to suspect Elodie?
Something about her rubbed me the wrong way since the very beginning. But to be more precise, it was probably around the time when I saw Bonnie try to get away from her.
After you arrested Bernard? Back then, Elodie tried to get close to Bonnie.
Elodie tried to get close, but Bonnie deliberately dodged her. Maybe Bonnie had tried to evade her before at Pierre's base. Or perhaps Bonnie just instinctively knew that she wasn't a good person. Not everyone who likes cats is a good person. But if cats like you, you're probably alright.
Fair enough.
Humans tend to overthink things, but cats rely on their instincts, and they're pretty sharp. I mean, just look at Bonnie. She took a liking to you the moment you met.
Your story has come to an end for now. Oh yeah, there's like the ending where you convince her to spend time with the kitty, which I can do very quickly.
I didn't like that. Was I using it wrong? Maybe if I just... Clearly, there's some design flaws to iron out. I'll have to let Fremine know. Let's see... What for? Well, if you want to get the right... So, to put it another way, or... Why don't you pick a card? Since I ran into you here, that means... our fates are, like, interfering with each other.
Alright, I'll pick another card for you.
Thank you. This one is final, I promise. Here, take the Fatometer. Also, if...
How about you do neither?
Huh?
If it was that urgent, someone would have come looking by now. That applies to both your troop and to Bonnie's owner.
What you're saying is, since nobody's come looking, I can just keep hanging out with Bonnie for a bit longer? Is that really okay?
Well, Bonnie sure seems to like that idea. No!
Maybe not. As much as I don't want to, I really should be getting back. Besides, if someone does come looking for me or Bonnie and finds me just chilling out with a cat, I feel like I'd have a lot of explaining to do.
I think you should head back to the drinks reception.
Back to the drinks reception.
I mean, clearly you don't want to go. You could just...
Nope, I said it was your decision. I'm not gonna waste any more energy dragging my feet. Besides, the drinks reception is technically part of the job as an official publicity event. So, if I bail on it,
You'll feel guilty inside?
I might get sued for breach of contract, and that would be a huge pain in the butt. One other thing. Do you want to come with me? If you're free, I mean.
Sure. Then you'll have at least one friend there. Hopefully that will make it more bearable.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Huh. I didn't like... Clearly, there's some design... Let's see... 4. Well, if you want to get the right... So, to put it another way... Thank you. Here, take the... Also...
Oh, they added a skip option. That's interesting. I don't know what that does.
Huh? What you're saying is that really okay?
Are you serious?
Besides, if someone... Alright. Then let's see where fate will lead me. So, we're looking for Bonnie's... There's 20 cards in total, numbered 1...
That's actually like a really nice quality of life feature. I'm glad they added that. Unfortunately, just trying to get this one ending as luck-based as all fucking get out. I just have to keep drawing a damn card until I fucking get the right one.
Huh? What you're... Is that really...
Come on!
Besides...
Think you should help Bonnie.
So, we're looking for Bonnie's owner?
Why does this have to be completely luck of the draw? It's just one ending.
Huh. I didn't like that. Huh? What you're... Is that really...
Finally. That was annoying.
You make a good point.
We can just stick around here for a while. So if anyone does come looking for you, they'll find you.
Okay, well... Assuming Bonnie hasn't strayed too far from where she went missing, there's a chance we might bump into her owner in either the Steambird offices or the restaurant. So, stick around here in standby mode? Yeah, that suits me.
If you're going into standby mode, shall we find some cat food?
Oh, good idea. Bonnie's definitely hungry.
If we're getting cat food, shall we get some snacks for us too?
May as well. We could be here a while.
Well, since we've got cat food and snacks, let's find a place to chill.
When I was trying to find somewhere I could space out earlier, collect my thoughts, I figured the cafe might be a good shot. Alright then. Plan of action? Spend the whole day spacing out. In standby mode.
Doing nothing is the happiest thing. Right. And then I need to do this. I might as well heal at the statue.
Time to go.
Now behave and
That hurt.
Oh my god. That was close. We can leave Bernard's interrogation to the guards. Let's first rescue the animals at the Humane Society.
Really over? I still feel like the relationship between Pierre and Bernard is not as simple as it appears. Also, I've had this strange sense that something's off the entire time we've been on the case. And it has only gotten worse. Good. I've still got nothing, and I'm nearly out of energy.
Don't force yourself. Just leave it to Linny and the others.
Alright, I'll stop thinking about it for now. At the very least, we've made it so that no more animals will suffer like those poor animals did. And that's what I hope. Let's go to the Humane Society and see if there are any animals left that might still need our help. Before my energy for today completely runs out.
The truth remains submerged in the dark undercurrents, yet hope already lies beyond the cage. I guess that means, yeah. They really need to improve the navigation experience for the hangout events. It's just, it feels really bad and sluggish and awkward. Oh, I almost have enough resin to do the world boss one more time.
Anyone seems to be writing about these days. Goodness knows what they find so
I suppose it's better that I'm making more progress than I expected on this event, hangout event, than I thought I would be able to.
There you are, Lynette. Where did you disappear to? Leone and I have been looking everywhere for you. Wait, where did you get the cat?
I found her outside. Do either of you happen to recognize her?
I don't think so. Could belong to one of the guests, I suppose.
Fair enough. It was a long shot.
So sorry we couldn't help you, Lynette.
Don't worry. We'll ask around for you. Leone's probably just being forgetful.
Maybe you could leave her with us. We'll take her to the reception desk and see if they know anything. And if not, we'll just keep looking.
Sure. I would help, but I'm a little preoccupied. Sorry to dump this on you.
It's no trouble at all. We're happy to help however we can.
Also, if it's no trouble, I mean, could we maybe get an autograph? And maybe a photo too?
Leone! You can't spring that on her now. Not while she's working. At least wait until the event's finished. One last thing, Lynette. Director Mary is looking for you. We'll take the cat to the front desk now. See you later.
You're so popular.
I'm not usually required at these kinds of events, so I don't even have an event mode. Alright, guess I better go see the director.
Spectacular choreography, a masterpiece of mise en scène, and the performance, oh my, groundbreaking, dripping with, je ne sais quoi. My congratulations on another magnificent show, sir.
Yes, yes. I, for one, was particularly captivated by the clearly allegorical narrative undertones. The Lost Puppet shines a spotlight on the impact of technological advances in our modern society, particularly as they relate to changing modes of emotional expression and the challenge of mutual intelligibility. Such a pioneering work, so far ahead of its time. A tour de force of avant-garde theater.
I can already see the headlines of tomorrow's newspapers. They will certainly be singing your praise, Director Merriu.
But it was a group effort, of course. To convey emotions in a silent show with no facial expressions, the entire cast had to go above and beyond. Everyone truly outdid themselves.
Speaking of the cast, Jillian, another strong performance from you in Director Merriu's latest show, as of course we've all come to expect from your numerous successful collaborations to date.
That's quite an overstatement. I've only ever played supporting roles.
On that point, you stated a few months ago in an interview that you were looking to secure a leading role in your next show. What led you to the decision to stay in a supporting role this time around?
We had a discussion about this, and while Lynette hadn't previously performed in an acting role, we were blown away by her talent, and she was a perfect fit for this character. Quite simply, this was the role she was born to play.
Exactly. I was honored to share the stage with her. Lynette worked extremely hard in all of the rehearsals, and she's an incredibly talented actress.
Oh, Lynette's back!
Hey, Lynette, where have you been?
Are you in standby mode? Some reports say you switched that state to recharge after a show.
Ah, method acting, of course. Such a compelling portrayal of a mechanical puppet could only be achieved by an actor who lives and breathes their role even while off stage.
Those seemingly stilted movements were in fact an inspired portrayal of the character. The ostensibly bad acting, in reality, was the product of supreme acting skill.
Oh, I went outside and there was this cat there, so I played with the cat for a bit.
A cat? We've long heard that you are a kind soul, as well as an incredible actress. No wonder your debut performance has garnered such popularity.
This show looks on track to break box office records for avant-garde theater. Lynette, any words for the fans?
Not really, no.
I believe Lynette is trying to say that the act of performance itself is the actor's true means of connecting with their fans.
Oh, I see. Lynette, any comments?
Right, exactly.
But don't you want the fans to know how you're feeling right now, after the hugely successful opening of your first ever show?
That's true.
I'm sure the fans would love to learn a bit more about you, too.
How interesting.
Hold on. Lynette has only just finished performing. She needs to recharge.
Oh, really? I'm so sorry. How rude of me.
Huh? Wait, you're the traveler who's been in the news. Did you come to see the show?
Wow, are you a fan of Lynette too? Do you have any comments on her first performance?
Are you alright?
Yeah, it's just... Turns out, even with you here to share the load, I can't cope with this stuff, even in Tea Party mode.
Tea Party mode?
It's a power-saving mode for participating in conversation at tea parties. Normally, I can get through an entire conversation just with, oh, that's true. And how interesting. But at a tea party, I'm not normally subjected to a constant stream of questions. The energy consumption of that interview just now was 3 times as much as the average tea party.
It's a big adjustment. Give it some time. Maybe after a few more interviews, you'll get used to it.
I think I'd rather pray that I never have to do it again.
Lynette, Director Mariu would like you to join the group photo to commemorate the successful opening of the show.
A group photo?
It's just the members of the troupe, along with Maloney and Corentin. Everyone's waiting for you.
Alright then. See you in a minute.
3, 2, 1, smile.
My thanks
Yeah.
to each and every one of you here for your help in making The Lost Puppet a success. The group photo is already being printed as I speak. You can collect your copy from the first floor after the drinks reception concludes. May it serve as a reminder of this fabulous performance every time you see it.
Mariu! Get over here. Let's have another drink. There's a few things I need you to glance over for me.
I thought the group photo was the final hurdle. Well, at least there's no more people hounding me with questions. I just need to find somewhere to switch to standby mode, and the time will fly by. I hope.
Okay. Thank you for all the people who came by and checked out the stream. I know that there was at least 2 people on the YouTube chat who decided not to say anything. You don't have to talk if you don't want to, but you're more than welcome to if you ever do come by again. And thanks for Ava Wilson for coming by. I'm gonna hop off and maybe get something to eat for lunch and then watch some anime with my friends, so I will see you probably late tonight if you want to come back around, because I still want to finish this event, hangout event with Lynette, and then do the Arlecchino quest, at least today. And then tomorrow I'll probably do the new Archon quest and Cloran story quest. But yeah, I will, I'll see y'all later. Peace.